Hello dear students, welcome back again to Chinmoyee's YouTube channel. So this is the second part of locomotion and movement. So in the first part we have given the introduction of skeletal system. So what is the main purpose of skeletal system? We have all studied about that. The functions of human skeletal system I have told you. Now I have given you a basic idea of what are the two types of skeletal system, the axial skeletal system and what is it and what is the appendicular skeletal system, which we are going to study in details in today's lesson. So as of now I think you have gone through the first part of movement and locomotion. If you have not gone through that part, I am putting that link above and I'll be putting all the links in the description box as well. Please go through that before going through this today's video, so it will be clear with you all that what I have taught in the previous lesson. So before starting the lesson, I would request you to subscribe to my channel so that you can keep on getting the updates which I am posting for each and every lesson, and your study process will be in a systematic manner. If you are having any doubts, any queries, please do write in my comment box, and if you want a live session on any class, on any particular topic, subject, please do share in my box so that I can arrange that. Now let us start with today's lesson of axial and appendicular skeletal system. Now in today's lesson we are going to study about the components of the axial skeletal system. We are going to study about vertebral column, its different regions of vertebral column. We are going to study about the 5 main regions of vertebral column. We are going to study about the structure of the vertebra, and we are going to study about the sternum and the ribs. Now this all detailing will take quite a long time, so we are going to study this in detail today. In the next slide, in the next class, we will be studying about the appendicular skeletal system. So let us start with today's lesson of components of axial skeletal system. Now, what are the main components of the axial skeletal system? The first main component of the axial skeletal system is the skull. Now, skull, what is it? It is actually made up of two sets of bones. So, it is mainly made up of two sets of bone. One is facial and cranial bones. Okay. So, 22 bones in the skull are there, out of which 8 are cranial and 14 are facial bones. And we can see in the diagram also there are interlocking joints that are called sutures. So these joints which are interlocking, these are called sutures. You can see the name given over here, squamous sutures and all. This is coronal suture. So these all the interlocking joints are called sutures. Is it clear? So total 8 bones, cranial bones are there. And what are the functions of this cranial bones? These bones, what they are doing, these bones are permanently fixed and cover the brain from all sides. So these bones are always permanently fixed and they are covering the bone, we can say that these bones are permanently covering the brain from all sides. So the brain is being covered from all sides. You can see the brain is being covered by all sides through all these cranial bones. Now there are 14 facial bones. Okay, so what are the functions of the facial bones? These facial bones, what they are doing? They are protecting the face and the head. Okay, is it clear? So they are all protecting the face and the head. So these bones all are protecting the face and the head, and head are being protected. So face and the head are being protected with these facial bones. So is it clear? So these bones from the face, they are protecting, and actually the main sensory organs, that is the eyes, nose, which are present in the face, the upper and the lower jaw which is formed with the bony structure. So they are actually the upper jaw, the maxilla, and the lower jaw, the mandible. They are all protecting the internal organs. See, the maxilla and the lower jaw is the mandible. The upper jaw is the maxilla, the lower jaw is the mandible. Here you can see in this picture also. And these are here in this small part, you can see that is the zygomatic arch. This is the coronoid process. This is the condylal process. Okay, so just make it clear, this is mandibular fossa. So many things are there in this cranial system, that is components of the axial skeletal system. So mainly all parts and all names are not required for you all in this point of time. Just remember that total cranial bones are 8. The main function is to protect the or cover the and protect the brain, and the facial bones are covering the internal organs or the sensory organs from different type of injury of the face as well as the head. So let us see what is there in the next part. Now, before starting this vertebral column part, let us discuss one thing, that is there is a large hole at the back side of the cranium that is called foramen magnum. So what is that hole called? That is called foramen magnum. And what is the function of that hole? That hole is actually bringing the spinal cord down from the brain to the backbone. So it is the connector. Through that hole only the spinal cord moves down or continues from the brain to the backbone. So this is very important. We should know this, that from the brain to the backbone, what is the main hole through which it is passing through? It is the foramen magnum. Now, another thing, important thing which we should know is there is only one bone in the human body which is not connected to any other bone. What is that bone? That is the hyoid bone. So we will be studying about this bone later also, that is the hyoid bone. So this hyoid bone, where is it located? Is a V-shaped bone which is actually present beneath the tongue. So this is present beneath the tongue. So it is a V-shaped bone. Now, as we have started with this vertebral column, let us concentrate in this one. So it is forming the center axis of the body. It is forming the center axis of the body, and the skull is resting on that. So, and the skull is resting on that. Now, there are various bones in this vertebral column. We all know that there are various bones in this vertebral column which are connected to each other to give us the support for the movement. So we are studying the lesson for movement and locomotion, in which this vertebral column plays a very important part. And what is that important part? That important part is it is supporting the body. There are many small bones joined together to support the body for the movement. So there are 33 irregular bones called the vertebrae, and there is a fibrocartilaginous disc. Okay, there in between the two vertebrae there is a fibrocartilaginous disc that is called the intervertebral disc. Is it clear to you all? So that disc is called the intervertebral disc, which is acting as a cushion in between the two vertebra. So if two vertebrae are together, they are two bones, they will be having a friction. So to resist that friction or to reduce that frictional force, there is a fibrocartilaginous disc. So the function of this is to reduce the frictional force between two vertebrae. So this is called the intervertebral disc. Now, what are the main 5 regions of the vertebral column? The main 5 regions are the cervical region. First, the second one is the thoracic region. Third one is the lumbar region. Fourth one is the sacral region or the sacrum. And last but not the least is the coccygeal region or the coccyx. So there are 5 main regions, and how these regions are divided and how many bones are there in each region, we will be discussing it in the next part. So let us see in the next slide what we are discussing about this vertebral column. Now here in this one we are discussing about the 5 main regions of vertebral column. So what are the 5 main regions of vertebral column? First one is the cervical region. So cervical region is what? It consists of the first 7 vertebrae, and of which the first one, what is it named? The first one is called the atlas, and the second vertebrae is called the axis. Okay, the first one is called the atlas and the second one is the axis. So these two are the first and the second, and the rest are called all typical vertebrae. So from first to seventh, first one is the atlas, second one is the axis, and others are all typical vertebrae. Others are called typical vertebrae. Is it clear? So others are called typical vertebrae. So what is the function of this cervical region? The main function of this cervical region is what? It is allowing the movement of the head and twisting of the neck. So this is the first part. It is allowing the movement of the neck. It is allowing the movement of the neck and the twisting of the neck. Bending and twisting is also done by this part, as it is the first 7 vertebrae of the spinal cord. So bending and twisting is also with the help of this part only we do. So if any problem happens in this region, cervical, so we hear nowadays that the person is suffering from cervical spondylitis. So what is that? That there is degeneration in these 7 bones. So this cervical region is affected and the person is having the disease called cervical spondylitis. So what is that? This is actually a disease in which the person is sitting for hours in front of the laptop, with a mobile, or in front of the television, and is not doing any neck or bone exercises. So movement is necessary for each and every part to keep the bone and body healthy. So this cervical part is related to the neck movement. So is it clear to all? Next we are moving on to the thoracic part. So thoracic part is having 12 thoracic vertebrae. So the neural spine, we can say that of these vertebrae is long, and they are all long and pointed, and they are providing the surface for the muscle attachment. So they are from the 7th, there are 12 vertebrae. So we can say there are we can start from here in this diagram. We can start from here, from the 8th one till here the 12th one. These 12 are the thoracic region. After this, we can say that what is the importance of this thoracic vertebrae? They are supporting the rib cage. So they all are supporting the thoracic region. The function is they are supporting the rib cage, and they are actually allowing the some bending and rotation of the trunk. So they support the rib cage. We can see the main function is support the rib cage and helps in bending of the trunk. So they are helping in bending of the trunk also. Now after this region we are getting the lumbar. So the first 5 after this are the lumbar. So that is the lumbar vertebrae. So this lumbar vertebrae, they are allowing these are also allowing the bending of the lower part of the trunk. This is also they are allowing the bending of the trunk. Same thing they are also allowing. Next, come down, we are getting the sacral region. So next to that we will get the sacrum. So this is the sacral region. So is it clear? So it has 5 sacral vertebrae fused together. You can't see any vertebrae here separately. They all are fused together, and they are present on both sides of the pelvic girdle and form a joint with it. So we will study the pelvic girdle later. So let us concentrate here that this sacral region, they are all fused bones, and the sacral vertebrae they are transmitting the weight of the body to hip and legs. So however fat a person is, however thin a person is, the main weight of the body is being bear by this sacral region. Okay, so it is being conveyed, or it is being transmitted to the hips and legs. So sacral vertebrae is, what is it doing? It is the helping in transmitting the weight of the body to hips and legs. So it transmits we can say that it transmits weight of the body to hips and legs. So it's clear till now. Next comes the coccygeal region. So it has 4 coccygeal vertebrae, and these vertebrae actually they are what? They are we can say that these are also fused together to form a coccyx. So these that is actually the tailbone. We human beings, we are not having any tailbone, so it is a vestigial organ for all human beings. So the vertebral column, here you can see that the vertebral column is actually a curved part. So the curved part, it is absorbing the whole pressure and shock for the body, and it is keeping the body in upright or erect posture. So the main thing is that it is keeping the body in upright and erect posture. So it is keeping the body in upright and erect posture. So I think till now, till the 5 regions of vertebral column, it is very much clear to you all. The first axis, the first one is the atlas, the second one is the axis, and we have divided it into 5 parts. First is the cervical, second the thoracic, third the lumbar, fourth the sacral, and fifth the coccygeal. Now, how many vertebrae are there in each, that you should learn, and with the function of each of the following regions. So that is very important, how many vertebrae are there in each region and with each of the following functions. So let us see, we are moving on to the next, that is the structure of vertebra. Now, here we are getting the diagram of a structure of vertebra. Let us see what is there. Now, what is all the vertebrae have a common structural plan. So there are so many vertebrae in the spinal cord. So each vertebra, it is an irregular ring-like structure we can see. And the main body here, it is the centrum. So what is the main body? The main body is the centrum. And there is a vertebral arch. So where is this vertebral arch? Let us see this labeling. So this one is the vertebral arch. Okay, there is a main body or centrum. This one is the main body or centrum. There is a vertebral arch. So what is the function of the centrum? The centrum, as you all can see, it is a very thick disc-shaped anterior part, which is the weight-bearing part of the vertebra. So this is actually bearing the weight of the full body. And what is the function of the vertebral arch? It is extending posteriorly from the body of the vertebra, and it actually has a canal. So this canal is called the neural canal. It is actually having a canal called the neural canal that runs through the center of this neural arch. So here it is the centrum. This is the vertebral foramen. Is it clear? This is the vertebral arch. Just follow the diagram. You can see this is the vertebral arch. This is the vertebral foramen. Now, as we come down, as the spinal cord runs through this vertebral or neural canal, so through this vertebral or neural canal, as it is coming down, what is happening? There is down, when we come down, there is a spinous process that is called the we can say that when we are coming down, that is called the neural spine, which is actually flat and a longitudinal projection. Is it clear? So it is a flat and a longitudinal projection. Now next 7 processes that are arising from this vertebra. Now when you are learning this, please keep the diagram in your hand, otherwise it will be very difficult for you to learn each and every part of this structure of this vertebra. So for each and everything in this movement and locomotion, as we are studying about the skeletal system as well as the appendicular system, it's a bit difficult because you are going through the different names which are quite new to you. In the previous classes in 7th, 8th, 6th and all, you have gone through this lesson, movement and locomotion, but it is quite important that you should be very particular of each and every term, as you are in higher class now. If you are not doing this correctly, you will not get the good marks. Now let us come down. Now 7 processes arise from the vertebral arch, and a transverse process which is extending laterally on each side, a spinous process which extends posteriorly, remaining 4 processes from the joints with the other vertebrae, we can say. So is it clear? Now the base is centrum, this is the body. Here we can say that it is the vertebral arch through which there is neural spine, or the we can say that the neural canal which runs down and forms the neural spine. There are 7 processes which are arising from the vertebral arch, and a transverse process which extends laterally on each side. So this is all about the vertebra and the spinous process which is extending posteriorly, and there are remaining 4 processes which forms the joints with other vertebrae. Okay, so other processes are forming the joints with other vertebrae. Now next we will move on to the sternum and the ribs. Let us see what is there. Here this slide will continue the sternum and the ribs. So the sternum, what is the sternum? Sternum is actually the breastbone, and it is flat and it is narrow bone which is located in the median line of the front part of the chest. So you can see here in this diagram, it is a very clear diagram. What is the sternum? This is the flat bone. See, this is the sternum. This is the flat bone which is present in the it is the breastbone. It is located in the median line of the front part of the chest. Now most ribs, you can all see that all ribs are coming and meeting the sternum, but not all ribs. We are telling that most ribs are attached to the sternum. It is also supporting the upper part of the thorax. We can say that this part is called the thoracic cavity, and anteriorly it is attached to the pectoral girdle. Is it clear? Now we will see that how and what the ribs, where the ribs are attached to. Now we all know that there are 12 pairs of ribs. So there are 12 pairs of ribs in the thoracic cavity. Now the ribs along with the breastbone and the thoracic vertebrae form the bony rib cage. So what is the bony rib cage formed of? We can say that the ribs with the breastbone and the thoracic vertebrae. So we can say the ribs plus the thoracic vertebrae plus the breastbone. So these three combine together to form the bony rib cage. These three equal to the bony rib cage. These three are combining to form the bony rib cage. The breastbone, the thoracic vertebrae and the ribs. These three are combining to form the bony rib cage. Now the ribs, what they are doing, there is a variation in the structure of the ribs from the first to the last one. The ribs, they increase in length from the first through the seventh. You can see here, the first one, they are very small ribs, and gradually they are moving down, they are becoming big. So they are increasing in length as they are moving from the first to seventh. Then again they are decreasing in length to the 12th rib. So there is a peculiarity in the pattern. Till the 12th rib they are again decreasing in pattern. Now the first to 7th ribs, you can see in the diagram. Please follow this diagram. Now this first to 7th rib, you can see here, the first to 7th rib, what they are doing, this first to 7th ribs, we can say that they are all attached to the direct anterior part, that is to the sternum, by a strip of hyaline cartilage. So they are attached to the breastbone or to the sternum with the help of a hyaline cartilage. These ribs are called true ribs. So 1 to 7th, these all ribs are called true ribs because they are all attached to the sternum. Next to which the remaining 5 pairs of ribs which do not attach, these 5 pairs of ribs, they are not attaching to the sternum. You can see they are not attaching to the sternum. So these are called the floating ribs, or we can say they are also called the false ribs. Now we can say that these are called the false floating ribs. The last two of these ribs are called 11th and 12th are called the floating ribs because these are not attached, because we can say that the last two pairs, the 11th and the 12th, they are not attached to the anterior. Their anterior ends do not attach even directly to the sternum, and they attach posteriorly to the thoracic vertebrae. So there is a peculiarity. So is it clear? So first to 7th ribs, they are all attached to the sternum. 8 to 12, these are called the false ribs. 8 to 12th, they are called the false ribs, out of which the last two, the 11th and the 12th, they are called the floating ribs. So because out of these 5 false ribs, the last two are called the floating ribs. These are false ribs only, but they are also having another name, that is floating ribs, because they attach only posteriorly to the thoracic vertebrae. They are not attached even indirectly to the sternums. The previous ones, they are indirectly attaching to the sternum. You can see the end point here. They are indirectly being attached to the sternum. Indirectly being attached to the sternum. 8th, 9th, 10th, but 11th and 12th ribs, they are not at all attached to the sternum in any indirect way also. They are posteriorly they are attached to the thoracic vertebrae. So is it clear to everyone that what is happening here? So it is a little bit peculiarity of this ribs. So we are all clear about this rib cage and all. Now let us move on to the next part, that is the appendicular skeletal system. Now, if you are all feeling that it is very difficult for you to understand this, and then move on to this appendicular skeletal system will be little bit difficult for you. So I'll leave it till now, till this part will be there for you in today's lesson. Again, we will move on to the appendicular skeletal system in the next part. So we are not continuing with the appendicular skeletal system in this part, because as of now we have studied so many things in details that it is difficult for us to recall when we move on to the next part again to the appendicular skeletal system. So it's better that I finish my topic here, and again I'll carry on with the next video, that is the appendicular skeletal system, which in that I'll be teaching you only the parts of appendicular skeletal system. So before going, please, I'll be requesting you all to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to like and share my videos, and please do share with your friends so that they also get to know these all topics in a lucid and systematic manner. And it should not be difficult for anyone to study these topics. And if you subscribe, you'll be getting my updates every time I post my lesson. So today till now I'm completing my lesson. I'll be soon back with the next part, that is the appendicular skeletal system. Thank you dear students. Please stay tuned with my videos, and please do follow the description box as well as the link above. Thank you.